And I've taken in a few parakeets. This is just it's supposed to be an indigo bunting feeding a berry to a mouse. Normally, birds in the wild don't feed berries to their babies. I mean, that's not they sometimes do, but in other words, when their babies are really young, they require a very high protein, balanced diet. So this picture shouldn't give anybody the idea that berries is the correct diet for an infant bird. It is for a mouse, though.
Those are wonderful. So. Boy, are you talented.
Well, it's fun.
I remember we were talking about the first time you sold cards, and you were working out of the back of a van at a craft show. Where, if I wanted to buy some now, where would I find them?
They're in different stores around the country, and right now what we're doing is, rather than producing the product ourselves, I create the images, and then we license the rights to use those images to other companies. So various companies around the world, mostly in the U.S., are putting them on their products and selling them in stores.
Alan, that's great.
Yeah, it's
that's
fun.
Really good. Okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages to having two chickens
in the house? Well, the advantages, I suppose, are that for those who are not vegan, they'll lay eggs. And so if somebody is a big egg fan, it's a humane way, if you care for the chickens nicely, of having some eggs.
And
that
vegan
don't come.
being?
What's that?
Vegan being the definition of vegan.
Vegan is somebody who doesn't eat any animal product whatsoever. And people who are vegetarian, however, often eat eggs. So this would be one way of having some eggs. I don't advocate people hatching their own chickens, only because if they want a pet or want a hen, because you don't know whether you're going to get a rooster or a hen. So you have a 50-50 chance of getting a rooster, which might end up crowing all day, which might be hard to live with. So I do advocate rescuing them.
Tell me about their personalities. Are they different?
They're very different. The Trixie, who's got the problem leg, is a little bit more protective of herself because she's got the problem with her leg. She knows she can't run out of the way as you're walking through, so she is a little bit more fearful of being stepped on. Very gentle and loves to be held. Peeps is the more outgoing one, and she just, wherever a person is, she wants to be, and she's fearless. And they both are very enjoyable.
And they like each other?
They love each other. And that's the nice thing. I can go away skiing and not feel like either one is lonely because I've got two birds.
You know, my sister Margaret has had chickens for years, and they all had their individual personalities. There was one that she took in as a rescue that somebody called her about, that when she put them in with the others picked on it.
Oh, it happens.
What do you do in a situation like that?
Often there is one at the bottom of the pecking order, and often when you remove that chicken, then they find another one to pick on. And it's in my opinion, is due to closed situations where they're all confined together. I think out in the wild, if one was getting picked on, it could move away a little bit from the flock, and be out of reach of the others. But we create this kind of situation when we put them all together in a crowded situation. So the best thing to do, if it were me, if I had a chicken like that, is I would take the injured one out until it was completely fine, because chickens will find an injury and peck on that. So you got to get it back to complete health and looking good before you reintroduce it. And then often those are the more fearful chickens that get picked on, fearful personalities. So you kind of have to watch.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about their diapers. So where there are chickens, there are chicken droppings. And do you use their feces?
I don't. No. I don't do a lot of gardening, so I don't do a lot of composting. So they just go in the garbage.
Well, Margaret, who has been on the show, you met Margaret?
Yeah.
Okay. She has vegetables that they're straight out of the Jolly Green Giant. They're beautiful, and she uses the chicken droppings, plus she has a horse, and her vegetable gardens are just wonderful, so that's an advantage.
That's something that I should consider for the upcoming summer.
Either that or put it in a bucket and save it for me next time we see. So how do these birds differ than other birds that we know of?
Well, chickens are I think that they're more mellow than other birds. I mean, they certainly have been domesticated so that they're they're happy and comfortable around humans, especially if they've been treated well since they were babies. They're obviously most breeds of chickens are a lot bigger than other birds, so they're going to produce more dander in a house situation, for instance. But chickens, they're smart, personable, and social. They don't learn to talk like a parrot, but the advantage of a bird like this is it's not the challenge that a parrot presents, because a parrot wants a lot of constant interaction. It's a highly intelligent bird, and the more intelligent an animal, the more of a challenge it can be, the more interesting it is, but also the more of a challenge it can be to keep happy.
So what should people do if they find an injured farm animal?
That's a tough one, because there aren't a lot of protections out there for farm animals. But contacting Humane Society and maybe getting their advice would be good. Seeing if the person who owns the farm would be willing to give the animal up, if somebody's willing to take care of it, might help. That's what's happened in a lot of the cases where I've taken in a farm animal, the pigs, for instance. The farmer thought that the pig was going to die anyway, so the farmer just gave up the pig and was happy to do so.
We've rescued some pigs, and boy, are they smart, intelligent, comical, funny stories. So in the springtime, when you see chicks in the stores for sale, what about them?
Well, often you go in and see these cute little chicks, but you might see one of them that's lying on its side or lying flat out. That's not a good sign. It means that chicken is probably hypothermic. You know, it's gotten chilled. It was too weak to get enough food into itself so that it was active. A lot of these chicks are hatched and then immediately shipped into feed stores. So they haven't really even had a chance to recover from the hatching process before they're sent out in the mail, which is very stressful to them. So if you see a chick like that, most likely the chick isn't going to survive without intervention. Sometimes they might have a bacterial infection and they might require some antibiotics. I've taken in a couple of chicks like that, and they have survived with really intensive care. Warmth, antibiotics, and careful dosing with food to get the blood sugar and the calories up, and just generally watching over it very carefully. And they can survive, but you got to get them to somebody who knows what to do.
Yeah. Margaret's had her chickens now for over 5 years, and it's been great.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to talk about too, as an alternative for people that do eat chickens, have you ever heard of corn?
I have, and it's great. I really like it.
This is outrageous. It is outrageous. In fact, last night, I was like, okay, what are we going to have for dinner? I pulled this out of the freezer, and in 45 minutes, it's a little roast, and it was done. And I just want to read the ingredients, because aside from being not an animal, it's really healthy. Calories, 90 calories per serving, and there were 5 servings. So I'm going to say about that much, 90 calories.
Yeah.
Corn turkey roast is made with mycoprotein, and it's Greek for fungi. It's completely meatless and soy-free. There are believed to be over 600,000 varieties of fungi in the world, made after foods like varieties of mushrooms, sought after foods like varieties of mushrooms, truffles, and morels. They have a website that has all different types of products, but I'll tell you, I challenge anybody to taste and tell me the difference between that and white turkey meat.
It really is good. And didn't you say you made some kind of a gravy to go with it?
Well, yeah, what I do at Thanksgiving or whenever I'm serving it is I make, get your hand out of here. No. I do a 4 mushroom gravy, and you can't tell the difference. You do not miss having turkey on the table.
Yeah, and I think there's potassium in mushrooms too, which is good for you.
Yeah, but anything, what, I think we're running out of time, but is there anything else about chickens that you want to share, or any of the other rescue animals you've done?
I think mostly that if you do see a baby chick that's not looking good somewhere, at a feed store, farm, wherever, it's worth intervening and doing something for the chick, because it's a life. They suffer just as much as anybody else does. And And then there are sanctuaries around that do take in poultry if a person isn't equipped to give this chicken a good life after they rescue it.
In Vermont?
There is one in Vermont. Somebody could contact Green Mountain Animal Defenders and ask them about the sanctuary. I don't know how often they get overloaded. So what quantities of chickens they could take in, I don't know.
You know, I've thought about having chickens myself. Not that I want to add one more thing to take care of, but would these require, first, how do they get along with cats?
These probably would get along fine, but the cat would have to be trained a little bit. And maybe something like a little bit of a water gun if the cat was really after the chicken, but with
Super soaker.
yeah, right. But with a predatory animal like a cat, I would not ever leave a chicken alone with it in the same room.
Okay.
I would always be careful. And rambunctious children, you know, children are high energy, as cute as they are. You have to think about the fact that they might run through the house and flop down on the chicken, not know it's there, and kill or injure it. Because birds have hollow bones. They're very fragile animals. So they need to be with somebody who takes care of where they step and also doesn't mind having a chicken on them all the time. These chickens want to be on me as soon as I sit down anywhere.
So it's my cat.
Right, they're very much like a cat that way. And we have 2 dogs, both of which were predatory before we adopted them. And they both killed and ate animals when they were strays. And so I had to do some really careful, long, intensive training with them to make them understand that these birds were not to be harmed. And now they're great. The birds will eat out of the same dish as the dogs and all that, but you can't do that with any dog. You have to really know your dog and approach the whole situation very carefully.
Okay, and it's just so interesting. How often or when will they start laying eggs?
Anytime now. I can sense their combs are starting to turn red. This one never developed a comb, really. She's got some, physical issues, I guess.
This one does.
That one's comb is starting to turn red. I would say any time they're going to begin laying. So.
And how often do they lay?
About once a day, once every other day, and you have to provide hens with plenty of calcium because they're using up calcium to produce that eggshell. So birds can easily become calcium deficient and egg bound if you don't provide them with the necessary nutrients when they're laying eggs like this. Because in the wild, they would just lay a clutch of eggs, hatch them, and that would be it. Maybe for the rest of the season, or they might have one more clutch during the season. But domestic chickens just lay all the time. If you keep taking their eggs away, they just keep laying eggs.
Okay.
So.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. If it's all right with you, I'd love to put your contact info up.
Okay, sure.
And thank you very, very much for coming down all the way from Burlington.
And if anybody does have a rescued chicken or a bird that needs help, they're welcome to call me.
Great. And thank you very much for joining us today on For the Animals. Can I put her down just so she can walk?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get...
Yeah.
At dusk, there came a turning. There was a moment when all was known. You could feel beauty rising on the breeze, the shapes, the stone, and I would ride upon the breeze that shapes the stone across the sky and beyond to that place where all is known, when I could fly.